It's the Arch Advocate Show, and believe it or not, this show is not a political show. Right? It's just like a talk show that's like, hey, this is where we're at, folks. Right? Like I use the analogy over and over again. You go to the mall, and you don't know where something is, so you go to that little, triangular stand there. It's got the map on it. It says you are here, and it's like, look, man, this is where we are at. Hillary Clinton is the face of evil. The Democrat Party, and it really, trust me when I say this, like it bothers me to say this. I don't like the idea of team politics. Well, this is my team. The Republicans are my team. Listen, the Republicans are not my team. There are some very wicked people in the Republican Party, right? There are things that the Republican Party has done in my lifetime that have been truly evil things, right? But it's never, it used to be back in the days that evil politicians had the good social grace to keep things hidden from the rest of us. To do, backdoor deals and, like that thing I was talking to a friend of mine, that thing about, all the Congress people that wanted to vote on that mechanism that keeps a pot of money set aside to pay off the victims of sexual assault by Congress people and senators and governors and whatnot. I was talking to a friend of mine about that, and she said her response was, well, that must have been like buried in some other sort of measure. Yeah, probably. It's probably buried in something else, right? And they hid that. They did that in the cloak of darkness. And by the way, just so you know, according to Tim Proy's podcast, which I recommend, when it came time to vote for that, there was not a single congressman or congresswoman that voted against it. Everybody who voted on that measure voted for it. And then everybody else who didn't vote for it, it was because they didn't vote at all. They just didn't show up and vote. Everybody who voted for that, so that's Democrats and Republicans and everybody else. That's where we're at, right? And I want to talk about this, and I want to mark these times because, in my opinion, like, now is the time that we have all been given to rein back in our government. And if we don't do it, if we fail in this, then we will be responsible for the repercussions, and they will be severe. You just had Hillary Clinton on TV last night, and I strongly recommend that you go watch this entire interview. It's you can look it up. It's on CNN. It's Hillary Clinton says Democrats can't be civil right now, and it's 10 minutes long. And you need to listen to what this lady's saying, right? And hear the hypocrisy in it. She's talking about being civil. It's like, bitch, your people just were so desperately grabbing at straws that you paraded some lady who's crazy in front of the United States and said, look, she has a rape accusation from nearly 4 decades ago. 1982, 83, whatever it was. It's like that's your idea of civility? This is what your people have been up to? Or how about the time that you threw Muammar Gaddafi under the bus? You know that Gaddafi, and again, it's just world politics, and you can look at it however you want, but we put Gaddafi in check. When Ronald Reagan was president, the United States bombed his house, like the place where he lived. And we told him, like, listen, just so you know, if you don't begin acting right this very moment, we just want you to know we can kill you whenever we want. Now, we want you to stay there in Libya, and we want you to get control of that country, and we want you to be a player. But if you don't start acting right, we can kill you. And from that moment on, he acted right. In fact, Libya was actually a really good place to live because, Gaddafi had made some moves that were beneficial to all the people. Guess what? And then, so, Hillary Clinton has him killed. And she goes on TV and laughs about it. A guy was killed because the people in that region, like, literally stabbed him in the ass with a sword. He was impaled. And she just gets on TV and laughs about it. We came, we saw, he died. Like, what a psycho. Like, a guy died, lady. Right? A horrible... It's not like SEAL Team 6 went in and assassinated him. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a quick... It was a horrible, torturous... It's like, dude, we don't do that. As American people, as Christian people, we don't do that. She's up there laughing about it. Psychopath. She's up there talking about civility. So it's just like the demon is just right out in the open. Oh yeah, I'm going to talk about civility. Right? This whole Russia collusion. This whole Russia collusion thing. It's all based on a dossier that Hillary Clinton paid for. Oh, if I can't be president, I'm going to become a hindrance to this guy's presidency at all costs. And for 2 solid years. 2 solid years. This is unprecedented. Nobody has ever run for president and lost and ran around pissing and moaning about it as long as she has. And the last person to do it, even close, was Al Gore. Remember that in 2002? He couldn't stop. He got all fat and he grew that beard. She hasn't stopped going around the world saying, I'm the victim here, people. You better get on board with the Democrats because, I'm the victim here. We're going to take back control, man. And when we do, we're going to punish those evil Republicans. Listen, what Hillary Clinton said is, we will not be civil until we get our power back. Oh yes, I'm sure that as soon as the Democrats get power back, their whole intention is civility. No more blaming innocent men of rape. And what about, listen, I've made this point before. Hillary Clinton has never been charged, nor Bill Clinton, for murder. Therefore, they are innocent until proven guilty. But here's one thing that's not up for debate. There are a lot of dead bodies surrounding the Clintons. A lot of them. A lot of murders and a lot of suicides. And again, it's like, you talk to a liberal and it's like, well, I mean, it's, she's never been charged. I mean, that's all just conspiracy theory. It's like, dude, those people are dead. That's not a conspiracy theory. Those people are dead. Well, I mean, people kill themselves every day. How many people have you known that have killed themselves? How many people have you known that have even died? 4, maybe 5? You know what I mean? Like, if you counted all the people that you knew personally that are now deceased, and I'm not talking about people who grew old and died. Take all your grandparents and all those people out of that equation. I'm just talking about young people who either killed themselves or were killed in a car accident or whatever. How many? You know what I mean? Like, you take all the people who've died in Afghanistan and Iraq. Right, all of my fellow Marines. It's like as a Marine, I didn't know all of those people. You could talk to Marines that were in Iraq and in Afghanistan who had friends that died, and it's like they would tell you, it's like, yeah, I didn't know all of those people that died. I just knew these people. The amount of dead bodies surrounding the Clintons is it's in the double digits. Like they say in baseball, double digits and crooked numbers. It's a lot of people. So I ask you, I've asked this question before. It's like, do you think, you know what I mean? It's like, there's only 2 possibilities, right? Either either you did it, right? Either the Clintons called those hits in, or working for you is so depressing that it makes people want to kill themselves, in which case we need to look into that. And I'm sorry, there is a third option. The third option is, or you are hiring people almost exclusively that are so mentally unstable and unfit that they are the type of people that can not only conceptualize killing themselves, but carry it out. Those are the only three options. Evil. Like, you pick one of those three options and all of them points towards you're evil. You are evil people. And you're up there talking about civility. People, this is where we are at now. The demons are walking around right out in front of us. We just saw that there was that clip from Nancy Pelosi from just a couple of years ago. And I strongly recommend that you go see this too, if you haven't seen it already. Nancy Pelosi's on stage in talking, giving us a speech to, I don't know who, but evidently a lot of people. And she's up there just very matter-of-factly talking about strategy, saying like, listen, here's what we do. We blame people, we accuse somebody of something that's just false and we just made up, right? We fabricated a story, and then we use our political power and we go to our friends in the news media. And so we commodify that. I can't remember what the word she used. It could have been commodify or monetize, but what she's saying is like maybe it was monetize. She's saying like we will fabricate a story, then we'll take it to our friends in the news, we'll get them to run that story. And then what that does is it puts that idea into everybody's mind. And then we can just slander people. And she said there was like a word, a phrase for it called the slander spin or something like that. She's just talking about it like, yeah, this is just what we do every day. That's the swamp. That's what's been going on in the District of Columbia this whole time. People, we cannot tolerate this anymore. She's talking about civility as if she knows what civility is. The ability to sit down with somebody that you disagree with vehemently, right? Take any issue, abortion, right? I am very much against abortion. I hate it, right? If you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have quoted C.S. Lewis to you. Now, keep in mind, C.S. Lewis lived a very long time ago, right? Long before we knew anything about DNA, long before the invention of the MRI machine, the magnetic resonance imager, long before we had any sort of technology to find out like what actually happens during an abortion. We didn't know. We had no idea what was going on because we couldn't see it. So when C.S. Lewis was asked, in the 1950s or the 1940s, when there was barely any, I think there was x-ray machines, but that was about it, right? You can't see a baby on an x-ray machine. He was asked about abortion, and he said, the thing about abortion is that because I am not a woman, I will never be in that particular predicament, so I cannot speak to that. I have no idea what a woman, what goes through a woman's mind when she's faced with that very horrible reality. If C.S. Lewis was alive today, his answer would be very different because now we have technology. Now we know what a baby looks like at every single day in the 280 days of a full-term pregnancy, or whatever the number, 279, whatever it is. I don't have any wiggle room on the issue of abortion. However, if somebody wants to have a reasonable and measured argument with me, I will have it. I will listen to them. And when they say, well, what about the incest and the rapes? It's like, oh, you mean the 1% of all abortions? Is that what you're saying? Are you saying that you want to cut down abortions by 99%? Okay, I'm with you. And then you will see the truth in their face. And you'll hear it in their voice because they'll say, well, no, because it's a woman's rights issue. Okay, you're saying it's a woman's rights issue. Okay, I will hear that argument. Are you saying that if a full-term pregnancy is 280 days long, are you saying that you think it's okay to terminate a pregnancy on day 279? Well, no, obviously that would be barbaric. Okay, well then it's not a woman's rights issue. If it's a woman's rights issue, then she has the right to do it on day 279. And if you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing is, like, people that are pro-abortion, they cannot have the argument because the technology has allowed us now to see what actually happens during an abortion. And anybody who says that they are for that is a monster. And in an argument, they would have to admit, yes, I'm a monster and I just want to kill babies. And now this is the thing I wanted to get to, is the face of evil, the demonic, is just walking out right in front of us. The face of evil is no longer trying to hide itself. Is that when we were all kids and we were all growing up and the issue of abortion would come up, that's what they'd always say. Oh, you just got to keep in mind, man, there's people that get raped and there's incest victims, right? And we all capitulated a little bit, like, oh, yeah, I guess that's horrible. If you went back in a time machine just 15 years, right? If you went back to 2003 and asked the most hardcore leftist liberal, like, do you think it's funny when people get abortions? Like, do you think this is something that getting an abortion is something to be celebrated? They'd say, oh, no, this is a horrible thing brought on by tragic circumstances. Abortion should be legal but few, like Bill Clinton said, right? Legal but rare, or whatever it was that Bill Clinton said. That's what liberals used to say. And now they're on television celebrating it as a sacrament, as a number of people have put it. Like a religious sacrament, like this is your rite of passage. If you want to be one of us, you must kill a baby. That's where we're at. They're openly celebrating it. Openly celebrating the slaughter of the innocent. That is a guaranteed way to bring down the wrath of God on you. And you can be the most devout Christian who ever lived, and if you're standing next to that person when the wrath of God comes down, you're going to get it too. Right? There, in the story of Noah's Ark, like whether you might be an atheist and you'd be like, come on, Pete. No, just think about it for a second. Just bear with me here, dear atheist. But you think Noah was the only person on the earth that was a, somewhat of a decent human being? You know what I mean? Right? Or the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. You think Lot was Lot was a very bad guy. You read the story of Sodom and Gomorrah and just keep reading. Right? Read what happens right after they get out of the city. It's horrible. Right? Lot was a very bad guy. But just good enough, I guess, to escape. You know what I mean? What I'm saying is like, look, in America, our culture, where there's a segment of our culture that is celebrating and cheering on abortions. They wouldn't have done that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago. They're doing it now. Right? 12 or 8, 9, 10, 11 years ago, like before Obama was in office, there would have been, if President Bush tried to, nominate a Supreme Court justice, like there would have been no room in the Democrat Party for them to allow, Dianne Feinstein to say, hey, I've got this BS story that, the way it goes like this: 37 years ago, this Supreme Court nominee raped a lady. It's like the Democrats would have came along and said, oh, you can't put that out there. You're going to make us all look terrible. These are very bizarre times that we're in, and you need to mark the time, because you are going to be put into a position. You are in a position right now where you're going to have to decide who you are, right? You're gonna have to figure out which team you are, and I don't mean Democrat or Republican, but I mean, are you going to be on the side of righteousness or the side of darkness? The Democrats right now have fully embraced this idea of socialism. Just once again, what was it, yesterday or the day before? Some climate scientist, a evidently respected guy, I don't know if you guys heard about this, I'm not going to read it, but guy comes out, he's a climatologist, and they just got a bunch of really bad news. The global warming people, the climate change people, the people who like to shout you down for being a science denier, they just got some very bad news. Their whole world is about to be is getting flooded with this news, right? There's way more ice on both of the polar caps, and the overall temperature of the Earth barely went up even a smidge. This is devastating news to these people. And what do they do for damage control? Like, what do you do when you're found out to be wrong? Right? What do normal people do? It's like, oh, I guess I was wrong. Sorry about that, everybody. Next. You know what I mean? When you're wrong, it's like you just say, look, I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Sorry I was wrong. Sorry I said something stupid. Sorry. I had too much to drink, I was drunk texting, sorry. Or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you just apologize, move on. Not these people, though. Oh no. They do what the Democrats and the liberals and the globalists, these people who all want George Soros to rule the world. What do they? They double down. This guy comes out, evidently a prominent climate guy, whatever. He comes out and he says, actually, the climate's in really bad condition, and it's all capitalism's fault. Capitalism is now causing global warming. You see what I'm saying? When I talk about picking sides, it hurts me to say those words out loud. But it's like, well, you forced me because I'm clearly not on your side, so I guess that kind of narrows it down. I'm not on the side of you over there talking nonsense to a exclusive group of privileged, very young people. You know what I mean? Like, these people, I've met a lot of these. I travel the world. For those of you that are new to the show, I'm not in the United States right now. I'm in a little country called Albania. And I've been all around the world. I've traveled, I've met a lot of people, and when you're traveling, there's certain types of people that they have their own certain little classes of people, like we call when I met Liberal Sam. Now, Liberal Sam belongs to a class of people that we call Trustafarians, right? What that means is that they are very well traveled, right? They get around. They've got a lot of stamps in their passport, which is respectable. Right, gathering stamps in your passport is a big thing amongst travelers. But Trustafarians, what those people are is, their parents are rich and they fly, business class or first class, and they fly to their destinations and they go, take selfies and take lots of pictures and whatever. And it's like, it's cool that you travel, but it's like you're not really, you know what I mean? Like, you've never been in danger. You've never had to worry about where your next meal came from. You never went, these places that you went. You went down to Brazil. You didn't go hang out in the ghettos. You weren't hanging out with the orphans. You weren't in a position where people were trying to steal from you just because of the color of your skin. Like, you traveled, yeah, but you didn't really touch, that society. It never got around to you. And it's those kind of people that, Trustafarians, it's like they're young, their parents had money, they're vegetarians because they don't want to hurt the animals, And those people that's who it works on. When you see all those protesters in Europe and Germany and Sweden, whatever, those people that are Occupy Wall Street, and they're dressed up like Antifa. It's like all those kids, they're all kids from middle to upper class families. They're not the poor people. You know what I mean? That's who these people are. Now, I wanted to talk about this because there's two ways to look at this, right? It might appear that our government and the governments of the world are almost completely overrun by the Hillary Clintons and the Nancy Pelosi's and the Dianne Feinsteins of the world. Now, it does look that way. And it may very well be the case, right? And it may look to you like all young people, all these, kids that are, 16 to 22 years old right now, represent the majority. And there's even somebody who was saying like, well, if they're not the majority now, then they will be in 10 years, right? Let me put this bug in your ear, because you will never hear me say anything other than this, that good will always win. Good always wins. One way or another. Sometimes it takes decades. Sometimes it's very, instantaneous, but good always wins. Right? In the eternal battle between good and evil, good always wins, and it was never close. Right? Like I've made this point before, like you go through the Bible, right? You go through all the Jewish Bible and then the Christian Bible, right? Go through it all. Every time Satan or a demon appears and is being talked about, they're always getting their ass kicked. Every single time. There's a reason for that. Like evil doesn't stand a chance. Remember that, right? You're going to need that tool. You're going to need to have faith in that concept, that idea. And you're going to need to be able to, like when you read your Bible, you're going to need to be able to see that. Because it's true. It's all there. And there's, wild metaphysical reasons for that happening. But let me just give you this thing. I was talking to my wife yesterday, and she was asking me like, she was talking about like a certain type of crazy person, and she asked me this a lot. She says, "Do you have those? Are there a lot of crazy people in America?" Is what she asked me yesterday, and I said, "Well, here's the thing. I mean, yes, there is. There's a lot of people in America. Over 50% of Americans right now are on some sort of pharmaceutical prescription drug. Now, I know that some of those drugs are going to be, to lower your cholesterol, whatever, but there's a lot of people that are walking around on Ambien and, Adderall and, these horrific drugs that cause people to do crazy things, even kill people and kill themselves. There's a lot of people that are in America that are crazy, right? But I was explaining to her, I said, look, in American media, in the news, there's a saying, and forgive me if I misquote this, but the saying goes like, nobody wants to see a truck that is not on fire, right? And the thing is that doesn't translate very well to my wife, right? Because the word for truck is different, and on fire has a different, you know what I mean? So I had to break it down for her. I said, look, if we went, if we turned on the TV, we turned on the news one day, we turn on the news and there's a truck and it's on fire, right? We'd be like, oh, that's interesting to look at. I certainly wouldn't want to have a newscast about just a truck that was not on fire, right? So we turn on the news and there's a truck that's on fire. And then we watch the news and we turn it off. And then we come back the next day and we turn on the news, and lo and behold, there's another truck that's on fire. And we watch it burn, we turn it off, we come back the next day, we turn the news on again, and lo and behold, some other poor bastard's truck is caught on fire. After a while of going through that, eventually you would start thinking to yourself like, man, it just kind of looks like every truck in the world is on fire. Right? Like that would be wrong, but I mean it would be a fair theory to put out there. But it's like, no, no. There's 7 million or 7 billion people on the planet, and I think, let's just say half of them own an automobile. That's 3.5 billion cars in the world, but only 3 of them are on fire. It just looks like every truck in the world is on fire, right? It's the same thing with these Antifa people and these, people like Dianne Feinstein and whatever. It's like, look, it only looks that way because that's all we see. Because we don't live in Washington, D.C. Dianne Feinstein works in San Francisco. We don't live in San Francisco. Or where does she live? Sacramento. I think she lives in San Francisco, though. It only looks that way. Right? Now, evil has made some very ballsy moves lately, coming out in the open. It's like that's, evil knows. It's like once the sunlight hits you, then it's on. Now we can see you. We tried to be nice to you over the issue of abortion, but it's like those days are over because now you've truly shown your face. You have no interest in the 0.01% of people who get abortions because of rape and incest. You have interest in killing babies. That's what you want, and we're not going to allow you to do that anymore. Furthermore, you made it so that my taxpayer dollars is funding it. Those days are, you better enjoy it, leftist, because those days are numbered, and it's a small number. This idea of politicians, creating slush funds so that they can pay off their rape victims, those days they're numbered. And I will attack anybody, even on the Republican side. I just had a scheduled interview with this lady that she's running for Congress in San Diego, and she's the youngest congressperson to ever. She's younger than Ocasio-Cortez. Good Catholic girl, I'm sure, Republican, conservative, whatever. And I told her, I said, listen, I don't have any gotcha questions. I was writing to her publicist or whatever. I said, I'm not going to ask her any, gotcha questions. I'm a Republican. I too am a follower of Jesus Christ. I'm not going to ask you any questions that's going to make you embarrassed, but I am going to ask you questions like, well, what are you going to do about that slush fund? How is it that you are already mentally preparing yourself to keep yourself away from the temptations that come along with being in the seat of power? How are you going to handle that? How are you going to ensure that your constituents never lose control of you? And I haven't heard back from him since. So guess what, lady? I'm against you now. Mrs. Martaw. Now I'm against you. I ask you one tough question and you fold like a cheap suit. Now I'm against you. I hope you lose. Well, if I lose, the Democrat's going to win. Sounds about the same to me. I don't care if you have an R on your chest. I don't care if you're a Republican. Right? I don't care if you are a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm going to get eaten all the same. So I will continue to put even more pressure, particularly on the people that are supposed to be representing my interests. It's like I would rather a Democrat stand there and tell me, yeah, I want abortions and open borders and whatever, because it's like at least I know what that guy's up to. When you stand there and you say, well, I'm for your values and I'm for your things and whatever, and then I put you in power and you don't do anything that you said you were going to do, that's worse. Way worse for a number of reasons. It's confusing, it's disheartening, you know what I mean? It takes away faith. I would rather have somebody who's just standing there just being all evil but being open about it. Like Beto O'Rourke. Beto, who is not Mexican, by the way. If it came down to him or Ted Cruz, it's like, I mean, that's kind of a bad example because I know that, I like Ted Cruz. Like, I know that guy's going to get in there and he's going to try his damnedest to do everything that he says he's going to do. But if it was like, another Republican that I didn't know, and was always lying to people. It's like I would rather have somebody in there that I know is going to be evil, right? Because when you say I'm going to be good and I vote for you and I give you power and then you go in there and do evil, it's like, right? It's worse. You say, how is that worse? It's like, well, because either way, evil is getting done. Either way, evil is getting done. And only one of those two options is an example of where I start losing faith in humanity, in my fellow man and in my fellow American. When these people who say, I'm a Republican and I'm against abortion and we need oversight in social welfare and all these social programs that we have, we need to be able to see who's actually receiving these taxpayer funded benefits. We need to get in there and make sure that Congress people aren't just blowing through money to pay off their rapes. When people, they make those promises, and if they get in there and they don't do any of those things, it's like, well, you're still doing evil. Evil's still getting done, and I voted for it. It's a terrible feeling. And that's why I'm saying, this is a horrible segue, but man, you've got to vote in a couple of weeks. Man, you have to vote. We cannot let these people back in power. Because we just saw Hillary Clinton say, we're not going to be civil until we get our power back. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. What is your political power and your ability to be civil to your fellow man? Those two are not, they don't have any sort of correlation to one another whatsoever. You're saying we're not going to be civil. We're going to keep accusing people of rapes. We're going to keep drumming up these dossiers where we try to make Donald Trump, who, by the way, before he was president, I never liked the guy. He was always a New York Democrat to me, and I never liked the guy until he became president, right? Really didn't like the guy. He was a big city New Yorker, fast talking, that kind of I don't really like those kind of people. But to accuse that guy of being some sort of Russian operative and trying to ruin America by handing it over to the Russian government, that's your play? That's not smart. That's not good for the country. And then when it comes out that it's like, oh no, Hillary Clinton paid for that dossier. All of that stuff, it was all engineered. That's a fact. That is a fact that everybody knows now. And still, Bob Mueller has a job. You know what I mean? It's mind-numbing. And these people are just walking around, oh yeah, we're going to be civil, buddy. As soon as we get that power back, that's when we're going to start being civil again. We're going to bring civility back. It's what your notion of civility is slandering people and accusing them of rape, and you know what I mean? Again, I don't like Brett Kavanaugh as far as that kind of being on the Supreme Court, not him personally. He seems to be a decent human being in his personal life, and he seems to be a very good lawyer and judge. But where he comes down on the Fourth Amendment, from what I gather, right, he actually wrote portions of the Patriot Act, which I'm very much against. That's a problem, right? If the Democrats had come out when Kavanaugh was named, all they had to do to get Republicans on their side, all they had to do was ask him a bunch of questions about where he comes down on the Patriot Act and the Fourth Amendment. They wouldn't have got all the Republicans, but a hell of a lot more than they got. They could have been civil. They could have said, hey, you have this controversial point of view on whether or not people have the right to due process, to face their accuser, to, all that other stuff. All that other stuff that the Patriot Act just destroyed. They could have asked him about that, and they didn't. So you'll understand, Miss Clinton, if I don't believe you when you talk about your your eagerness to get back to civil times just as soon as you get power. Just as soon as I get power, man, then I'll be civil. Right? We're not negotiating with terrorists here, people. We don't do that in America, or at least we didn't used to. We're not negotiating with you, Miss Clinton. You're a terrorist, and we don't negotiate with terrorists. Dianne Feinstein, you are literally, you just terrorized a family. Those people are living in terror right now, and will be for probably the rest of their lives, because you wanted power so bad that you drummed up an impossible, you know what I mean? Like, I would have loved to have been in that room with all those Democrats when Feinstein dropped it, like, oh, hey guys, check it out. I've got an actual rape victim here. She says Brett Kavanaugh raped him. All right, we're going to get this guy. And then all the other Democrats would have been like, oh, wow, tell me more. When did this happen? 2 years ago, 5 years ago? Oh, no. 37 years ago. 37 years ago. There are people that in that time, between when Christine Blasey Ford says that it happened and today, there are people who were, born in 1985, right? So after the alleged rape, there were people who were born, grew up to be adults, had 2 or more children, and died of cancer or whatever. There are people who lived a relatively full life in that span of time and procreated. That's how long ago this charge is. I would have loved to have been in that room with the Democrats where they're like, wait a minute, 37 years ago? Okay, well, what's your evidence? Well, we don't have any. Was there any witnesses? No, there's not. You know what I mean? Like, this is these people's notion of civility now. No due process, no rule of law. We all want socialism, right? We're backing actual socialists now. Like, it's all coming into the light. And it's really bizarre. And it's wonderful, right? It is wonderful because look, the way to see this, it's this old argument, like how do you see God in situations like this? And one theological, like if you go off to seminary or whatever, like one, or even, whatever seminary is called for like Orthodox Jews, I don't know, I can't remember what it's called, but Orthodox Jews and Christians, it's like our thing is we have to try to be able to see God in everything and in every situation. It's not always easy. Because eventually you're going to run into Adolf Hitler. How do you see God in that? Right? It's a tough one. Tough one. 6 million Jews were killed. At the time, that was over half of the Jewish population on the planet. Do you know that right now there's only like 12 million Jews in the whole earth? Today. Like right now. You know what I mean? It's not a lot. And, how do you see God in a situation like that? It's like when you approach that situation, you have to be very careful with your words because it's like, man, you're about to make a lot of people very uncomfortable. How do you see God in that situation? There's ways I could talk about that another time, but I'll just put it to you this way: like, how do we see God in, through everything that we're seeing? It's like, well, one way you can look at it is like, well, now the spiritual battle has become so violent that it is no longer able to keep itself hidden under the cloak of apathy. Apathy is usually a word that's used in the pejorative, but it's not always a bad thing. I've said this many times before. It's like, look, if you're a guy and, let's say you're a pipe fitter or you're a welder or whatever, right? You're a guy that goes to work 8 to 10 hours a day. You go home to your wife and your however many kids. It's like, look, you sleep 8 hours a day and you work 10 hours a day. That's 18 hours, right? So you got 6 more hours to go, probably 2 of which are going to be used in your commute. So now you have 4 hours a day. Now pile in all the times that you take a shower and go to the kitchen and make yourself some food, or go to the bathroom or whatever. You take away all these things that steal your time away, and by the time you're done with it, you maybe have an hour or 2. And in that time, you have to get to know your wife and your children. You know what I mean? Like you have to balance your checkbook. You've got chores to do. You know what I mean? Like, life is busy. And so being apathetic to, concerns of politics and whatever, that's actually a very natural thing. It's like, I can't worry about what's going on in Washington, D.C. right now. Obviously, like, I'm not starving. I'm not being deprived of any of, the resources that I need. So evidently it's working fine enough. So I'm just going to leave it be. And evil uses that as a cloak, right? As long as we can put together this fund where we can pay off these rape victims and not be seen in the public, like, as long as we can do that, the American people will never know that this happened, right? Hillary Clinton paid for that dossier, the Russian dossier, before Donald Trump became president. She had a plan in mind for that thing. And had Hillary Clinton become president, we would have never known that happened. We would have never known that Peter Strzok and his Lisa Page, whatever, his girlfriend, we would have never known that, John Brennan was an evil guy, and you know what I mean? Like, there are so many things that are being brought to light right now because Donald Trump is president now, and he's going up against the forces of evil, and evil has to rise up to it and come up out of underneath their shroud of anonymity and the apathy of the American people and the busyness of the American people. Like, it's not hidden anymore. That is a thing that we can look at and say, yes, those are some very evil, very demonic things, but I can see God working in all of it. And that clearly God is with me. And clearly good always wins. And so now it is a time, it's like a calling from the Almighty himself saying, now is the time to be involved. Now is the time to know who you are and know who you are in me. And to know what you believe and be secure in what you believe. And don't let these people push you around anymore. They were walking around calling you, oh, you're a science denier because you don't believe in climate change. It's like, dude, you don't believe in it either. You're up there talking nonsense that now climate change is being caused by capitalism. Plus your false prophets, of Al Gore saying, the polar ice caps were going to be melted by 2014. Oh, sorry, there's actually more ice this year than there has been in a long time. These people would say, oh, you hate women and you want to take rights away from women. And now you're up on TV celebrating abortion as if it's some sort of holy, sacrament to you people. These are the people that used to shout us down. Well, no more. No more. Yeah. I had liberal Sam on, and he was like, did you know that women in America are still dying from back alley abortions? It's like, well, then I guess you kind of had it coming then, didn't you? Right? Because you have completely worn out my ability to join you in that conversation. Abortion is completely legal, damn near free, and you're saying that there's some people in this country that are either too stupid, to go to the doctor or whatever, and it's like, and they're dying. It's like, well, listen, not very long ago on this planet, people used to get eaten by wolves, right? People used to die because they tripped and fell and cut themselves, and then it would get gangrenous, and they would die. Like, nature has a way of removing the sick from the herd. You want to appeal to my sympathies? Your time, that time is over. You have proven that to you it literally is all about killing babies. We look back on ancient civilizations like the Aztecs and the Mayans and all these different tribes around the earth that literally practiced human sacrifice. And by human sacrifice, I mean baby sacrifice to their weird gods or whatever. And we look back on those civilizations and we look down on them like, ugh, man, you people were monkeys. But if mankind lasts another 1,000 years, people are going to be looking back on us. They're going to be looking back on this period of history going, man, those people killed a lot of their own babies. What a bunch of animals. The same way that we look back on the Aztecs, and we look at Aztec culture, and we're like, yeah, they figured out pyramids. That's pretty cool. But man, they killed a lot of their own babies. What a bunch of savages. What a bunch of absolute monkeys, apes, gorillas, animals. That's how people are going to look back on this period of history if we make it another 1,000 years. We kill a lot of our own babies. You know what I mean? And I for one, it's just like, you know what, no more. You got on TV and we're talking about yay abortion or God bless abortion, what that lady said. And Lena Dunham's out there saying, oh, I wish I would have had abortion earlier in life or whatever it was she said. It's like, okay, well, you're clearly, this is who you truly are. I'm out. No more. Well, what if she's raped or a victim of incest? I'm sorry. She's going to have to put the baby up for an abortion. She's going to have to carry that baby. What about a woman's right to choose? What are you talking about, a woman's right? It's not her right. It's not her life, not her right. If you want to get into the woman's right issue, I'll take you all the way to day 279 and ask you think it's her right to terminate that baby? Because if you say yes, you are an effing monster, an ape, a monkey, a simian, what's the other words? A troglodyte. A brute, you know what I mean? A person that I don't need to talk to. You just said you wanted to kill a baby that's 1 day away from being out of the womb. That's disgusting. That is a fully formed human being. A fully formed human being. You're saying that if it's a woman's right, then on day 279, then she has that right. And if you sit there and tell me that that's what you believe, I have a listener to the show, listener Derek. He had a baby that was born at 23 weeks. Right? A full-term pregnancy is 40 weeks. He had a little girl at 23 weeks, and she's fine. She's fine. I've seen pictures. She's healthy. She's smart, strong, normal kid. Just had a really rough start. You want to say that it's a woman's right? So you're saying a woman has a right to terminate a pregnancy 1 day before the due date. That is a fully formed human being. Oh, no, that's not what I'm saying. Okay, well, then it's not a woman's rights issue then, is it? And why isn't it a woman's right? Why is it not a woman's right to terminate the life of that baby on day 279? Well, because... Okay, well, then it's not a woman's right then. End of discussion, monster. I'm out. I'm done with that conversation, and I'm done with trying to plead with the Democrats. Democrats, we need you to be sane. We need you to be the other part of the working, you know what I mean? You need liberals, right? We all, somebody has to be the conservative. If somebody wants to get something done, I want to go to outer space, right? We need the liberals to say, we need to go to outer space, man. We need to take some money, build rockets, and go to outer space. But then you need the conservatives to come in and be like, okay, now we need to talk about how much money we're going to spend and who's going to get the money. We need to talk about what we already know as far as thermodynamics goes and propulsion and all that other stuff. That's what conservatives, and the two have to work together. It doesn't work if the two don't work together. And the liberals have gone so far out. It's like, I just want to close my eyes and astro project and land up on, end up in another galaxy. It's like, well, dummy, it doesn't work that way. And you're talking nonsense, and I can't talk with you about that. You're taking away my ability to be conservative because you're over there talking nonsense. And that's what the Democrats have become, and it's damaging this country. The Democrats used to be, the John Kennedy, right? Who was an actually pretty bad guy, but man, he sure had some good ideas, And it's bad for the country. It's bad when Hillary Clinton is up there talking about civility, and there is a segment of our population that's like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like they eat it up, they love it. They see Nancy Pelosi up there talking about how it is that they destroy the lives of their opponents. They're political opponents. They're not enemies. Those are your fellow Americans. She's up there with a big smile on her face saying, yeah, this is how we destroy people's lives. We make up an accusation, we take it to the news puts it on the air, and boom, destroyed. That's how we do it. It's called whatever it is that she said it was called. That's disgusting. That would be like, I used that metaphor before, like if we watched football, if we turn on the New England Patriots this next weekend, and Tom Brady drops back in the pocket, and a defensive back breaks through the line and almost sacks him, and he just pulls out a gun and shoots that guy. We wouldn't say, wow, man, Tom Brady, he's really dedicated to the Patriots, man. We'd be like, no, that's murder, and that's wrong, and we don't do that, and it's cheating. It's against the rules, and it's un-American, and it's un-Christian, and it's, you know what I mean? Like, nobody would be for that. And yet, here's the Democrats talking about, yeah, this is how we destroy people's lives. We cheat, we lie, we manipulate, and this is just how politics is done. It's like, no more. No more. It's too crazy. But the Lord's will, right? God's will is undeniable. God's love is unstoppable. And at no point in all of the history of the universe has God not been in control. So do with that information what you want. Hey, thank you guys so much for listening. I'm going to give a quick shout out to one of the new listeners that wrote a pretty cool tweet to me. So if you want to join me on Twitter, it's at RealPeteDobson1, at RealPeteDobson1. And somebody wrote me here. It's Teresa Whatsit at TerryFace73. TERIFACE 73. So if you guys want to follow her as well. But she just wrote, hey, following you, Refistance, because my little name on Twitter is Refistance. And she said, she just put a meme up that said thank you. That's basically thank you for your service. Thank you. Thanks for saying that. I always appreciate that. And also, she's a Jeremiah Johnson fan. Dude, I can quote Jeremiah Johnson pretty much the whole way through. Just so you guys know that I have that's in my pocket at all times. But hey, if you guys want, write me messages on Twitter. A lot of times I'll read them. Go on to my website, archadvocate.com, arch-advocate.com. And if you want to support the show with a little bit of dough, you can become a Patreon supporter. I need that. I need 4,000 people to give me $1 a month, and then I can come back to America. If you just want to send some dough as a one-time thing, I have a baby coming any day. I'm going to need some cash for that. Thank you, Todd Milligan, in advance. Appreciate you. But if you want to send some money on PayPal, that is also there, archadvocate.com, arch-advocate.com. You guys have yourselves a wonderful day. Bye.